Hello, welcome to Legal Aid New South Wales law webinar on New South Wales driving laws. My name is Natalie. I work in the Community Legal Education branch at Legal Aid, and I'm here today with Kerry, who also works in the CLE branch. We're broadcasting this webinar today from Legal Aid's Central Sydney office. So before we start, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we are broadcasting from today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. So the structure of today's webinar will go for about 30 minutes and then there'll be some time for questions at the end. As we move through the topics covered in this webinar, we'll be explaining the information on the slides for people who may have a vision impairment. We also apologise that there's no captions as this is a live webinar. However, we are recording the webinar today, so if you watch it later on Legal Aid's YouTube channel, there will be captions available. So there should be a control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can type questions for us at any time through the webinar. We might not be able to get to them until the end, but we can try and answer questions as we go as well. If you'd like to have a practice of using the question panel now, can you please type in to the question panel just where you're joining us from today, where you're listening from in New South Wales, just so we can check that you can hear us and that you've got that question panel there. If you can't see the question panel, there is an orange arrow. You might need to click on that to expand it. Okay, we've got a few people who can hear us from Cabramatta in Sydney, Kiama, regional New South Wales, Corrimal, Parramatta. Great, thanks everyone. And there's a few more, and there's a few in Sydney and Penrith. Great, thank you everyone, excellent. And we'll have a practice of the polls in a minute as well. So after this webinar, you will get an email about an hour afterwards, which will have a link to a resource that we've prepared, which summarises all the key points that we'll be covering today, and it also gives links to further information, including some videos that you can show to your clients. And if you are watching a recorded version of this webinar, we'll tell you at the end of the webinar how you can also get a copy of this resource. So we're going to try and make this a bit interactive, and we're going to be doing some polls during the webinar. So we'll do a bit of a practice one now, and this is also a question that is quite common that people are sometimes unsure about in New South Wales. So hopefully you can see that poll question on your screen there. So let's have a bit of a practice of doing that. So it says, how long can someone drive in New South Wales before getting a New South Wales driver licence? So if they've come from interstate or overseas. And you can select one of those options there, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months or 12 months. So we'll just give you a minute to answer those. Thank you. I can share those results with you now and we can have a look. There we go. So we've got 75% of people saying 3 months and 25% of people 12 months. So the correct answer for that is 3 months, and we'll talk a bit more about that. So well, most of you got that right, well done. And we'll talk a bit more about that through our case study in the webinar. So the purpose of this webinar is, I guess, well, we all know that driving is a very important part of life, and in New South Wales there are lots of driving laws and rules to follow when driving a car or riding a motorbike, and these driving laws might be different to laws in other countries. So for example, we know that in some countries only the driver is legally required to wear a seatbelt, and people might not realise that the law is actually different in Australia. And we also know that buying a car and the laws around registration and insurance can be difficult to understand for many people who have recently arrived in Australia. This is a topic, driving law or traffic law is a topic that has come up a lot at Legal Aid for workers who work with newly arrived communities. So the purpose of this webinar is to help community and settlement workers to feel more confident to speak to your clients about driving law problems and also to give you some information about where you can send your clients for help. This webinar is general information only. Kerry and I are generalist lawyers. We're not specialists in insurance law and that kind of thing, but if you have specific questions, we will take away those questions if we can't answer them on the spot, and we will get some legal aid lawyers to contact you back. All right, so the image on the screen is of someone handing us a set of car keys, so let's get going. So we're going to structure this webinar today, as I said, around a case study, which has typical driving law problems, which lawyers here at Legal Aid speak to clients about very regularly. These are the topics that we'll be covering today, and you can see them listed on the screen: driver's licenses, registration and insurance, road rules, demerit points and fines, and also car accidents, going to court for car offences, and, as we've said, where to go for help and what information resources are available. So I'll now hand over to Kerry to introduce our case study for the day.
Okay, thanks Natalie. So let's introduce you to Christina, who's our case study for today. You can see on the screen a picture of Christina. She looks like she's using her mobile phone while driving. So Christina has recently arrived in New South Wales from overseas. She has a driver's licence from her country but hasn't changed it over to New South Wales licence. She recently bought a second-hand car and thinks it's in her name, but she's not sure. So she's also not sure how long the registration has to go. She's got some paperwork which she asks you to help her understand, and also wants to know what type of insurance she has or needs to have, as she really needs her car to keep her job. Christina has a fine for using her mobile phone while driving and wants to dispute it in court because she tells you she had pulled over to the side of the road to make the call. Also, last week someone reversed into her car in a car park. Her mother was in the passenger seat and was injured in the accident. She's not sure what to do about her mother's medical expenses and about getting her car fixed. It's still drivable, but she wants to keep it looking good for resale. So for the rest of the webinar, we're going to go through Christina's legal issues and discuss where you could send her for help. So first of all, we're going to talk about driver licenses. The image on the screen is of a man looking pretty satisfied that he now has his driver license. As we all know, once you get your driver license, it's very important to keep it. So it's also important that your clients know how to get and keep a valid licence to drive in New South Wales. On the blue post-it note are what Christina needs to think about and things that you as her support worker could ask her before she goes to get legal advice. Is she still driving on her overseas licence? Has she been in New South Wales for more than 3 months? Is she on a temporary or permanent visa? Christina has told us that she recently arrived from overseas, and as we said earlier with the poll question, if she's moved to New South Wales permanently, she has 3 months to change her licence over to a New South Wales driver licence. And this would be the same for someone who's moved to New South Wales from another state or territory within Australia. If she moved to New South Wales on a temporary visa but is staying in New South Wales for more than 3 months, she needs to get a temporary visitor's New South Wales driver's licence. Depending on where her overseas licence was issued, there's different requirements for getting a New South Wales licence, and you can find out all about these requirements on the Roads and Maritime Services website, which we'll call RMS from now on. Christina does not want to get caught driving without a valid New South Wales licence. The fines are really high and she can lose points from her licence. Remind her also that she needs to carry her driver's licence with her at all times that she's driving. And Legal Aid have a brochure about what happens if you get charged without a valid licence, which is in English and other languages. And the resource we send you will have details about that. There's also lots of information about the different types of licences and what to do if you've moved to New South Wales on the RMS website, and we'll give you that link as well. So now Natalie's going to talk about car registration and insurance.
Okay. We'll keep going. We've got a question around how long you can drive on a licence, but we'll come back to that, I think, at the end. So thank you for the question. So moving on to car registration and insurance, the image on the screen is of a car with a New South Wales registration plate. If you drive an unregistered car, it is a criminal matter, and there are also large fines. The questions on the blue post-it note are what Christina needs to think about and things that you as her support worker could ask her before she goes to get legal advice. So is the car in her name? When does the car registration run out? And what type of insurance does she have or does she need? Christina has told us that she recently purchased a second-hand car and would like some help understanding the paperwork that came with the car. So here are some of the key things to talk with her about. Does she know, or does the paperwork show that she is the owner of the car? If this is not clear, she needs to visit a Service New South Wales office. The new car owner details have to be changed within 14 days of buying a car. There'll be a fee to transfer the registration, and the amount will depend on what she paid for the car. But if she leaves it longer than 14 days, there may be more to pay. Her paperwork should also show when the annual car registration is due. Another thing that's important to let Christina know is that if she changes address, she needs to make sure that she lets Service New South Wales know, because that's the only way now that the annual car registration reminder notice is sent, because we don't have the stickers, registration stickers on cars anymore. So for car registration, it's important that your clients understand there are 3 steps they need to take to complete the process, and you probably know these from driving your own cars. It's important to have the car checked by an authorised mechanic before the registration is due, so that's what's called a pink slip, and this report is automatically sent to the RMS. The second step is buying a compulsory third party, or CTP, personal injury insurance, which is also called a green slip, and again this information is automatically sent to the RMS now. The New South Wales Government has an online green slip calculator, and we'll send a link to that as well. The third step is to visit Service New South Wales at the office or online to finalise the registration and to pay the fee. Some of your clients may be on Centrelink, so that means they don't have to pay the annual registration fee, but they still need to finalise their annual registration by confirming their status with Service New South Wales before the car is considered registered. So those 3 steps are still needed. If Christina does not complete this process, her car may not be registered and she may be pulled over by the police and charged with driving an unregistered and uninsured car. So if Christina's confused about insurance, she needs to understand that there are different types in Australia. There's in New South Wales, there's the green slip. So that only covers the cost of injuries to people in car accidents, and her papers will show what type of insurance she has on the car. If she wants to insure damage to her car and the other car in an accident, she has to buy either third-party insurance to cover the other driver's car or comprehensive insurance, which covers damage to both her car and the other car. And there are some products available for people who are on low incomes. One example of this is from the Good Shepherd Microfinance. They have some affordable car insurance options. And again, the resource we send will have details on those that might be useful for your clients. So the image on this screen you can see now is a road with cars and some of the many signs of road rules in Australia, which we all need to be aware of when driving. The RMS has a brochure called the New South Wales Road Users Handbook, and this is available in English and many other languages, and that can be downloaded from their website. Now, there are a few road rules which we regularly talk about with people at our legal advice clinics, so we'll just focus on some of these for this webinar. And it's important that your client understands that in Australia, every time they break a road rule, a record is kept of this, which the police can access. So firstly, everyone in the car needs to be wearing a seatbelt, and this includes children in the right restraint for their age and weight. And it's important that young children are in car restraints that they can't get their arms out of. We have seen a lot of clients who've been pulled over by the police who have gotten a fine for not having their children properly restrained because their children have got their arms out during the journey. So another important one for all of us is speed limits, and these are marked by signs on the side of the road, but speed limits may change depending on where you are, especially school zones at certain hours of the day and during the public school terms. So the police regularly set up roadside random testing stations for either drink driving or drug driving. And if you're passing one of these, you have to stop. The police will indicate if they want you to pull in. You also must comply with the request to either do a breath test or a test to test for alcohol or a saliva test to test for drugs. Legal Aid New South Wales has brochures on being charged with drink driving and drug driving in English and other languages. As you probably know, the courts in New South Wales see a lot of these types of matters. It's very common, so it's important for people to understand the rules around this. A driver in a moving or stationary vehicle, such as stopped at the traffic lights, also must not hold a mobile phone in their hands. They must be parked with the engine off before using their mobile phones. And the question on the blue post-it note for Christina is what she needs to think about and things that you can ask her. So what we can see is that, so we want to know that when she used her mobile phone, was she in fact legally stopped with her engine off? So what Christina could do about that through Legal Aid is she could make an appointment to attend a free Legal Aid criminal law clinic to get legal advice about what to do. We do see these situations quite often. However, she'll be told that Legal Aid can't represent her in court. If she does decide to dispute this fine in court, this doesn't fit with the type of work we do. So she would either have to represent herself or pay for a private lawyer to do it. But she can get that initial legal advice around this issue first. So we would encourage you to send her to Legal Aid for the legal advice. Law Access New South Wales, and we'll give you the link to that as well, also has a lot of information about representing yourself in court, especially some really good videos. So we're going to try and do something now which we haven't done before in many webinars, which is to play you a video. Let's just see if this works. If it doesn't work, we'll just not worry about it. So you can see on the screen there's a video on the RMS website about the use of mobile phones. And I'm just waiting for that to load. We might need to let you have a look at the RMS website yourself and search for that video.
Yes, we have a link for it in the resource that you'll receive after the webinar.
So what we'll do instead is to launch a poll around the use of mobile phones while driving, just to see what people currently know, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion about that. But this video is a really nice, clear one to show your clients as well. So do have a look at that link. All right. Sorry about that, everyone. So this poll now, you can actually select more than one option. So this is around when it's okay to use a mobile phone when driving a car. So the options are to send an SMS when you're stopped at a red traffic light, when you have pulled over and have turned the engine off, to let a friend know that you're running late, to follow directions on your Maps app, or if it's in your lap and it's on speaker mode. So you can tick more than one option, and some of them are a bit unclear, a bit ambiguous. There might be more than one right answer. So this is just to generate some discussion. So some of them might have, yeah, the answer's not entirely clear, but that's why we're going to have a chat about it. All right. I think we've got people who've, I think everyone's answered, so I'm going to close that poll now. And we'll share the answers again. Here we go. All right, so we've got 100% of people have said that when you're pulled over and you've got the engine off, so that's right, but you'd need to be stopped legally in an authorised parking spot. So I think if you've pulled over, turned the engine off, but you're in a no stopping zone, for example, then you can't use your mobile phone. So that's why we need to prompt Christina and ask her a few more questions about that. She says she was pulled over and the engine off, but we need to ask her a few more questions. So stopped in a legally authorised parking spot. So the first one, nobody put that it's okay to send a text message when you're stopped at traffic lights, and that's absolutely right. You could never do that. To let a friend know that you're running late. So this is actually a maybe, and it's a bit of a trick question, sorry about that, because if you have Bluetooth or something like that in your car, and if the car is in a proper cradle, then you might be able to. Mm-hmm. However, yeah, if you're holding it like in the video, if you're just holding it, you absolutely can't. So that's right. Or if it's in your lap or between your shoulder and your ear, you can't. Same to follow directions on your Maps app. So we've got people who've said yes, you can do that, and that's probably right, but only again if it's in a proper or like properly manufactured phone cradle for your phone. And you can't use your phone for a map at all if you're on your L's or P's. And nobody said if it's in your lap on speaker mode, and that's right, you can never use your phone in the car for that. Okay, so thank you for that. Hopefully, yeah, I think everyone did pretty well with that one.
Definitely.
So do have a look at that video.
Yeah, you can see on the screen it only goes for a minute, so it's very easy to look at with your clients. So what we're going to talk about now is demerit points and fines, and the image on the screen is of a parking ticket under a car window wiper, something we all dread. It's important that your clients understand about both fines and demerit points can stop them driving in New South Wales. If they get many fines, it may also affect their ability to become an Australian citizen. Each New South Wales licence type allows a different type of demerit points, and if you lose that number of demerit points, you can lose your licence. The RMS website has information about how many demerit points are allocated to each licence type if you want to have that discussion. Breaking road rules can also mean losing demerit points and fines. At certain times of the year when there's lots of people driving on the roads, as you know, in school holiday periods, public holidays, demerit points are doubled if they're caught breaking road rules. So that might be something else your clients need to understand. And also that there's many different fines in New South Wales, and a lot of them are for driving offences. Fines are managed by Revenue New South Wales, and they need to be paid or an arrangement made with Revenue New South Wales before their due date, so fees aren't added to them. And in New South Wales, not paying fines can lead to both your driver licence and car registration being suspended, and then further fines and criminal charges if you're caught by the police driving while these are suspended. Luckily in New South Wales we have the Work and Development Order, or WDO program. This program allows people who cannot pay their fines to work off their fines through doing activities with approved organisations. Legal Aid has a WDO service with lawyers who can come to your service and run training about fines and work and development orders with you and your clients. So the questions on the blue post-it note are what Christina needs to think about and things that you as her worker could ask her before she goes to get legal advice about her fine. Can she pay her fine, and is she eligible to do a work and development order if she cannot? So Christina's driving offence was called drive using mobile phone while not permitted. The fine is $325 and 4 demerit points. If she did that in a school zone, the fine is $433 and 4 demerit points. So if Christina's going to have trouble paying this fine, you could look at the eligibility criteria for the work and development order, and you can contact Revenue New South Wales to find out about that, as well as request a payment plan so she can pay off her fine in small instalments each fortnight. So the information we're sending you has details about the Work and Development Order Service and how to find out more about fines. So we're going to now have a look at car accidents. So the image of the screen is of a two-vehicle collision. We know that Christina's accident wasn't really that bad because she can still drive her car, but her mother was injured, so it's still fairly serious. It doesn't really matter who was at fault, and sometimes it's difficult to work out who was at fault when you have a car accident. But what matters is that you get and record as much information as you can after a car accident. So what we're going to do now is a quick poll just to ask you what you know about what you should do after a car accident. And again, you can select more than one answer to the poll question, which is, what should you do after a car accident? And the options are help injured people, report the accident to police, exchange details with the other driver or drivers, take photos, and tell your insurance company. So everyone has everyone responded? Are we still?
Yeah, I think most people. We might close that poll now.
So we're going to close that. Thanks for your participation, and just have a chat about each of those. So 100% of people said yes, help injured people, and yes, that's definitely important, and to call 000 if you need an ambulance. The second, report the accident to police. So everybody said yes. Actually, you only need to call the police if there's, in a car accident situation, if there's a person injured or trapped, if the police are needed to direct the traffic or deal with hazards, if a car needs to be towed away, or if anyone involved is refusing to exchange their details, or if a driver is believed to be under the influence of drugs and alcohol. If none of those apply, then the police don't need to attend the crash site. If a car requires towing and you've managed to get it away from the crash site, you can report the crash to the police assistance line after the crash. So we'll send information about that as well, and Legal Aid have a brochure about what to do after you crashed your car, which talks more about when you need to call the police. So the third one, everyone chose that, exchange details. Yes, that's really important, that you exchange details with the other driver. Everyone said yes to take photos, I think. Yes, it's not essential, but it's a good idea to help with recalling what happened. If the other driver doesn't want you to take photos of their car, that's okay. Just take photos of the damage to your car and the scene around the accident. And the fifth one was tell your insurance company, and most people chose that. It's not essential, but if you're insured, you can claim on your insurance. However, it's your choice whether you claim on your insurance policy. You can make a claim, but you may have to pay an excess if you're at fault, and may lose your no-claim bonus. So what our little brochure about crashed your car says is you should discuss the accident with your insurer before you admit responsibility or enter into any negotiations with the other car driver. So that's just a hot tip from the lawyers. So thank you very much. As I said, there's a brochure that you can get from Legal Aid for free, which is in English and other languages, about what to do after you've crashed your car. So we've got the questions on the blue poster note about Christina in terms of what she could do after her car accident. Did she get the other driver's details? Did she tell the police? Has she contacted the state insurance regulatory authority? So Christina's told us that her mother was injured in the car accident. If she took her mother to a hospital or a doctor, it's important that they know and record the injuries resulted from a car accident. Christina should contact then the State Insurance Regulatory Authority, CIRA, which is funded by our green slips to discuss options in terms of financial and other support and costs associated with injuries that people get from car accidents. The other key issue to be aware of, some of your clients, if they've been in a car accident, if they get a letter from the other driver's insurance company or a debt collection agency telling them to pay the cost of damage to the other person's car, they should make an appointment to see a lawyer straight away to get assistance with dealing with those sort of demands.
Great, thanks, Kerry. We're just on half an hour now, but we're nearly finished. We've just got a little bit to go, so if you've got time to stay, thank you very much. So going to court for car offences. So the image on the screen is of a New South Wales local court. So the local court is where people go to argue against their car offence fines and demerit points. And we recommend that everyone gets legal advice before deciding to go to court for a car offence like the fine that Christina got. Because if you elect to go to court after receiving a penalty notice from Revenue New South Wales, they will issue what's called a court attendance notice, and that will have the details about where and when you need to go to court. And once this notice has been issued, you can't change your mind. The court attendance notice can't be withdrawn. And we've seen this at Legal Aid where people have changed their minds, but they still have to go to court. If your client decides to go to court, they can request an interpreter to be there on the day. You can call the local court where the case will be heard and ask them to book an interpreter in their language. Legal Aid can give legal advice, but as we've said before, they can't assist people, like speak for them in court about traffic offences. Your client, or Christina in this case, will need to organise a private lawyer or speak for herself. And Legal Aid has a brochure about going to court, and there's also the really good information on Law Access website, including those videos about representing yourself in court. And they also are around these sort of traffic matters, so they're useful to watch. So what should Christina do about her fine for using her mobile phone? You can let her know, as we've said, that there is free legal advice available from Legal Aid, also from community legal centres, or she can call Law Access, and we'll give you those details in a minute. But depending on her answers to your questions about whether she was parked properly, did she have the engine off, it may not be worth her while going to court to fight this fine. She may be better off trying the other options that Kerry mentioned just before about paying off her fines by instalments or seeing if she's eligible for a work and development order. So where can you send your clients for help? As we've been saying, there is free legal advice available at Legal Aid, so through our criminal fines drop-in clinics, and the website is there, and that will be in your handout as well. Legal Aid New South Wales also has a refugee service, so for people who are eligible, they can access legal advice through that service, and they have various outreach clinics in Western Sydney at the moment, but you can contact Legal Aid to Refugee Service for more information there. Community legal centres are available as well, and some of them have specific traffic clinics. So again, you can contact community legal centres to find out where those are. The RMS website we've been talking about is there, which has a lot of information about licences and driving on overseas or interstate driver's licences there. So the bottom points there are just some things we've added in. They're called learning to drive programs, and there are various programs specific for newly arrived and refugee communities to assist with driving in New South Wales, and they're at various locations around New South Wales. And again, we'll give you the details. And just a reminder there that you can ask for an interpreter at legal advice sessions and through New South Wales government agencies when you're dealing with those.
That's just a list of all the brochures that we've referred to throughout the webinar, so we might just move on because we've run out of time.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do one final poll with you just to find out whether you feel more confident talking to your clients about driving law issues following this webinar. If those of you who are still with us, if you're happy to give us a little bit of feedback. And we're also happy to take any questions that you might have at this point if you want to type those into your question box.
Yeah.
We'll close that poll. So thank you.
Thank you for your participation. So most of you have feel much more confident, which is excellent to hear, and some of you are a bit more confident. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, as Kerry said, please ask questions. And we will send you that. It's quite a comprehensive resource with all the links that we've been talking about today. And there's also some links to various videos which you can watch and which you can show your clients. So if you are watching this as a recorded webinar, there's an email address on the screen there, cle@legalaid.nsw.gov.au, and that's to contact the Community Legal Education team, and you can request a copy of that driving law resource. And again, for anyone who's watching, if you have further questions, don't hesitate to contact us at that email address. And in the email you'll get in about an hour's time, there'll be a follow-up, a survey as well. So if you want to add more feedback there, that will be very much appreciated. So thank you so much, everyone, for your excellent participation. And we will wait for your questions. If you don't have any further questions for now, then thank you very much.
We did have the one question there from someone who has left, saying that we weren't clear about whether someone could use their driver license for 3 months, their overseas driver's license, because we said that they need to get their license within 3 months. I mean, people can use their driver license for 3 months, but because it takes time to organise your New South Wales license, we recommend that you start that process before that 3 months is expired. So hopefully that's clarified that.
Okay. We've got another question, Kerry, on the use of mobile phones. So if it's on a fixed stand and earphones, can it be used?
I'm not sure about earphones, having those plugged into the mobile phone.
We can follow up on that and get back to you. It definitely needs to be in a fixed stand, but we can follow up with earphones, and we can email the group or add that to our resource.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Happy to do research on those specific questions. Another question is, what discussions are necessary with another driver to absolve losing no claims?
I'm not really sure. That would be something that you'd have to talk to your insurance company about, but that's something that you could definitely send your client to have a chat to a legal aid lawyer about in terms of their car insurance.
So legal aid has some people who are specialised in insurance law, so we can check that with them as well. And if you send them to the civil law clinic around this, they should be able to answer that question.
Yeah. No, I don't think you can text while driving, even if the phone's on a fixed stand. Pretty confident that you can't do that. If you watch that little video from the RMS, if you go to their website, you'll see that that clearly says that's a no-go.
Right.
So any other questions people have?
The brochure that Kerry mentioned from Legal Aid, Crashed Your Car, that has some tips on what to do around negotiating, so negotiating who will pay and for if you're insured or uninsured. So that it's quite a comprehensive brochure, so if you have a look at that, that might have some more details around the negotiations. But yeah, specifics about no claims. So I'm not sure, sorry.
Yeah, losing a no claim bonus. That's really specific to individuals, so I think I'd recommend they speak to a lawyer.
Okay.
All right, well that looks like all the questions. So thanks everyone, we've really appreciated your time today.
Thank you very much.